Hi, everyone. Welcome to Queer Soap Opera, Redefining and Subverting Romance. My name's Tanya Dorph-Mankey. I'm the moderator. And just to give you a quick rundown of why I'm moderating, I make a queer pro wrestling comic, which is pretty much soap opera, called Count the Lights. But this panel's not about me. It's about our wonderful panelists. So I'm going to read you a little bio of everyone, and then we'll get into the questions. Varela, right?
Yes.
Varela. Okay. Al Varela is a cartoonist based in Boulder, Colorado, and the creator of the online webcomic series Young, Dumb, and Queer. Their comics are focused on queer relationships, whether they're romantic or platonic. They also make zines about their experiences with music. Currently, Al is working on the next episode of Young, Dumb, and Queer, which should begin updating before the end of the year. Caroline Cash is a Philadelphia-based cartoonist. Her work has been featured in The New Yorker, MoMA, the Chicago Reader, Vice, and various other publications and institutions. Her new comic, Adventure Time, Bubbling College Special, a play on fanfiction tropes revolving around Marceline, the Vampire Queen, and Princess Bubblegum, is out this fall with Oni Press. She is currently working on her Eisner and Ignatz award-winning series Pee Poo Poo, as well as a debut graphic novel about dyke drama withdrawn and quarterly. She is a Capricorn. Katie Fricas is a cartoonist and comics editor living in New York City with her first book, just out this past spring, withdrawn quarterly. It's the story of a gloomy lesbian who works in a library and is trying to write a graphic novel, but can't. The main character obsessively researches the topic of her comic throughout the book, the true story of a pigeon who saves a battalion of U.S. Army soldiers trapped at the bottom of a ravine in World War I. She's also done nonfiction essay comics about art and politics for The Guardian, New York Times Book Review, Hyperallergic, The New Yorker, and more. So thanks. Thanks, guys, for coming and being on the panel.
Thanks for moderating it.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing I'm curious about is maybe just give me a rundown on why you're making the comics that you're making. Like, why choose the genre? Why?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, sure. Go.
All right,
Cool.
Hello, I'm Al. Hello. So the reason I make comics is because I love drawing and I love writing. So both of them together is like, well, I can do that. But like in serious, like also just like, I think it's just a medium that I think is very different from a lot of other mediums. It gives you a lot of creative space that I think like is really exciting and interesting and can go so many different ways. It can be very narrative focused. It can be very visual focused. It's the kind of stuff that I always wanted to read when I was younger. Like, I like the big books and all the like long text and stuff, sure, but I was always drawn in by not just how good writing in comics can be, but also how amazing it can look, because I just love drawing and I love illustration and colors, and it's like all my favorite things combined into one, and it's just and like ever since I started doing it myself, it's like my favorite venue to, I don't know, express myself and just tell the stories I want to tell. So.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to make the types of comics that I want to read. So like, I really like gag comics. I really like humor. I really like messy gay stuff. So a lot of my work focuses on that because I really kind of make comics for myself. And that's what I want to read. So I make what I want to read, you know?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I started out wanting to be a writer, but I also drew a lot on the side. I was pretty ignorant about underground comics until college, so I mostly thought that comics were sort of all superheroes, and I never really explored that, and I didn't think it was a place for me, but I kind of discovered the whole like San Francisco like underground comics world with like dykes and freaks making work in the 70s and 80s, and then you had people like Diane DeMassa, who has a new collection out with the New York Review of Comics. Her work,
It's incredible.
yeah, Hothead Paisan, Homicidal Lesbian Terrorist. And then I started kind of realizing that I could make comics too. I've always been interested in stories of like ordinary life, or like the seedy underbelly of ordinary life. Like I watched The Real World on MTV, like the first season on through the rest. Like I used to watch talk shows like Joan Rivers and stuff like that, where they'd have like, you know, like freaks and queers like getting makeovers, and I was always like, oh, those are my people, you know. And so yeah, I moved to New York, I started making comics, and yeah, I like to think that I'm kind of doing it in the tradition of all these gays that came before and were writing about their like salacious, sleazy lives. Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, I totally forgot to flip through the slideshow that I made where I showed everyone's work off. So I'm going to try and flip through while people talk. I'm sorry if that's distracting. But so I'm curious, because we're on this queer soap opera panel. Do you three consider your comics soap opera comics, or something else like a slice of life, or some other genre? Or did this panel suddenly make you realize, like, oh, it kind of is a soap opera comic?
I always refer to my series Young, Dumb, and Queer as slice of life, but I think I agree that like it does. I guess it would kind of count as like soap opera because drama happens. It doesn't like it doesn't like it's not like a consistent thing, but like when it happens, like you'll notice like, oh, there's some tension there, or like, oh, that's something to explore. The episode I'm currently working on actually involves some tension between the main couple of the series, which is Leslie and Faith. And like kind of, I guess, mild spoiler for something that isn't out yet, but it doesn't really get resolved, which I think is like kind of my way of being like, could this be something in the future, or is this a one-off thing? It's like, maybe that's something that's very soap opera, more than I think about it. What about you?
Yeah, I think it depends on the comic for me, because some of mine I feel like are too short, really, to be like a full-fledged drama. But I do think that the longer book that I'm working on could definitely be called a soap opera. And I love soap operas, and I love dramatic TV shows and stuff like that. So it feels kind of in line with making a really absurdist, out there, dyke drama, long-form comic, you know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm desperately seeking a genre, so this is great. I mean, it's like, I always like writing about like bad dates, you know, or hearing about bad dates, or like looking at other people's dating apps, and like, I was at TCAF and we had a panel on queer romance, and that was the first time I was like, oh my God, am I telling like love stories? And so, yeah, this is new for me, but I'm into it, you know.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
So there are certain things that we consider kind of hallmarks of soap opera or episodical TV or comics that come out in series. Things like recognizable locations, characters, or things happening. How has this influenced your comics, or could influence, or have you broken away from those sorts of tropes? Like, for example, in sitcoms, the house that most of the events take place in, or the group of friends, or things like that.
So my series, Young, Dumb, and Queer, actually started on a soap opera trope, I think, the love triangle, because it was like, Pearl is the one who has a crush on Faith. Faith is maybe interested in Pearl, but it turns out she's way more interested in Leslie. Leslie and Pearl are best friends, and that's a whole mess that happens. But I kind of subvert it in a way where it's like, it's a love triangle, but it's obvious what the end game is. It's Leslie and Faith. And like where it kind of subverts that is more just kind of Pearl and Faith reckoning with their own friendship as like, you know, there's obvious romantic tension there, but it's not going to happen because Faith is monogamous and stuff like that. But like, I also think about like, you know, we do those tropes because they're fun to read. We enjoy reading those kinds of things, but I also like the idea of just kind of messing with it in a way that's like not what's expected. Like, it's like in my love triangle wasn't like you have to choose one kind of thing. Like this decision was made like from like the beginning, but like, and just, you know, diverting it in a way that's still interesting to read and like maybe in a way that I think gets people who are already into like, all right, a love triangle, and they go deeper like, ooh, okay, this is going somewhere I didn't expect. I don't know. I like that kind of like subversion, and I do that a lot in Young, Dumb, and Queer in general.
Yeah, it seems way more complex and way more like realistic.
Yeah.
You know, than just like the classic love triangle debacle. You know.
Yeah, for sure. It's very much based on like, some of my own experiences, like, because like, I think especially remember when I was younger, like I would sometimes think in that sort of like TV kind of thing, but I kind of recognized that like, no, my situation's a little different. And like half of it was just because I realized I was not cis, but that's a whole other thing.
Totally.
The question was, are we into? Yeah, I'm totally into TV and sitcoms and totally influenced by them. I mean, I just love the Flintstones and the Jetsons. I just think they're brilliant. I could never get enough, and they are like cartoon melodramas based on sort of like vintage TV shows. And I've spent like an inordinate amount of time studying both of those shows. One time I was like, whoa, like what's below the Jetsons? I was like, started thinking about that. Like maybe the waters rose, are the Flintstones down there? And then, and I always liked that Fred Flintstone like has a New York accent. And I'm like, oh, this is ancient New York, So I love comedy and like a good plot that wraps up, but then maybe doesn't even continue into the next episode. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, I was watching like Golden Girls and like Family Matters and like Garfield and Friends, and there was always some like sad nerd in it, like Urkel or like John Arbuckle, Garfield's dad. I remember they used to like say he was like his father.
No, continue.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just remember I feel like there was like a running joke on the show that he was like a loser because he was a cartoonist, and like, but those were the characters that I was like identifying with, and I kind of missed them on TV today. Yeah.
It's Mr. Garfield's dad.
Yeah. Garfield Arbuckle. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Would you actually mind if I add on to that, actually?
Please.
Because you also made me think about, like, something about my own, Young, Dumb, and Queer, is that, like, you mentioned status quo stuff. And in Young, Dumb, and Queer, in my opinion, there's no status quo. Like, even if it's just a one-off episode where nothing changes, really, something still changes. And it carries over into the following episodes. And it's not in, like, an arc way. It's more in like a subtle change way that I think like, it wouldn't be, whatever happens at the end of my current episode, it could affect the next episode. It could not be a problem until like several episodes later. I kind of explore that a lot in one of my first episodes from one of my first episodes where like, Pearl comes back to the group and it's just kind of like, well, how do I continue now? Because, Faith and Leslie are dating. And I still have feelings, and like, and there's a whole bunch of stuff where it's just kind of like, how do I continue to reckon with this? And throughout the series, that's just it's still kind of brought up that like, Pearl obviously has feelings for Faith, but
yeah, she's still navigating it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, that's actually really interesting. So I'm sorry if I don't phrase this correctly because I did just think of it, but I feel like in a soap opera, there's so much happens. For some reason I keep thinking about EastEnders. That show has been running for or Coronation Street. Like it's been running for like 30 years and so much stuff has happened and so many characters have died and so I guess with a longer series or something that you are trying to continue and you have these similar characters who are going through life, how would you maintain a sense of continuity through the comic so it makes sense to the reader, but also I know for example Pee Poo Poo, right? You have four books, and I feel like the way I was introduced to it was I just kind of picked up a random one but was able to then dive in, which I feel like with episodical TV you can kind of just dive into it and watch an episode and you kind of get what's going on. I guess how would you translate that into comics? How would you make it readable and available to people as a new reader?
Well, so similar to, let's say, a Gossip Girl Thanksgiving episode where you can jump in at any point in time and just be completely wrapped up in it. And you're like, what you say? It's playing in the background while they fight over mashed potatoes. I love it. I tried to make a lot of really purposeful decisions that are like silly, but like were on purpose when putting out Pee Poo Poo. Like I numbered it completely out of order in a way that doesn't make sense. So that way people would have to just pick whatever they saw in front of them that they thought like the cover was coolest, or whichever one they saw at the store, and not feel pressured to read it in some sort of order because each issue is standalone, even though like there's there's stuff in it that continues from one to the other, let's say, but for the most part, each one stands alone. So numbering it like 69, 420 boobs, and then number one, I felt was, and the next one's going to be 100,000, but making it just impossible for anyone to know where to start, I think helps. Just like when a TV show has a billion seasons, and back when they were on cable, you just kind of had to start with whatever was airing, when you're like, I guess I have to start with season 2 of Gossip Girl. Really sad. Season 1's really good. But yeah, and what was the rest of the question?
I mean, I think that's
covered,
yeah.
Hannah?
I guess also. I'm trying. No, that's it. Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, I'm happy to elaborate.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I was just going to say that I was trying to focus on character development a lot. So I wanted to get to know the characters and make sure they felt like fully formed. So like I made each character a playlist. So like according to their personality. And then I would like listen to it every now and again. And that was really fun. I highly recommend doing that. And then the characters had like certain outfits that they are like, one of them's like always wearing a particular hat, or somebody else has like blue lipstick on or something like that. But my main character in Checked Out is this library worker named Louise, and I have her just like changing her outfit all throughout the book, and like I'll never do that again. Like that was a huge problem. Like I understand why Bart Simpson is in red shirt and blue pants, because I mean at one point I had to redraw like 25 pages because she was in the wrong outfit, and I just like light boxed it and like cut it out and like spliced it over it. But it was like this really annoying like rugby shirt that like I wanted it to be in there once, but I was like, oh my God, I did this to myself. So
those pages do look good.
Thank you. Yeah, but there's all these factors you have to, because I want there to be clarity, even if the lines are messy and stuff. Like it's important, I think, for people to be able to connect to the characters.
That's why I draw wrestlers who wear little trunks all the time.
See? That's it.
And that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I relate to that too, because like my own characters, I always have them swapping outfits, but I also try to repeat outfits so that I'm not like constantly like giving them like massive wardrobes and stuff like that. I also think like it's a little bit of a character thing for me too. With Pearl particularly, Pearl is at the moment closeted as non-binary, and you kind of notice that in like their outfits. They don't wear anything super girly or frilly. They're mostly just kind of like, the basic egg kind of costume of like sweatshirts and sweaters and all that stuff. But I think like them, but like I think as they come more and more out of the closet, I think like they might end up experimenting a bit with like what kind of clothes they wear. And I think that could be a big way to develop their character.
That would be fun.
That would be really sick.
Yeah.
But just a few outfits.
Just a few.
Just a few.
Yeah.
I do also relate, because I think literally while I was making this current comic where Tyler is like, usually I have Tyler like in that one, he's just kind of like in a similar jacket like that. I had one where I accidentally put him in a sweater for like 2 panels, and I was like, oh crap. Thankfully I'm in the sketch portion, so it was easy to fix.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really, you can really tell a lot about the character with how they like present themselves and how they dress. It's similar how you can like tell a lot about like a story with the setting. I feel like the clothes are part of the setting even. And like, for instance, when I was like trying to decide what to make Marceline and Princess Bubblegum wear, very fun, like playing with action figures, I I was like, I'm going to make Princess Bubblegum literally just wear Acne Studios this whole comic. You know what I mean? And Marceline's wearing ripped t-shirts. Nice. That she probably like found on the ground, you know? And I feel like that's so both of them, you know? But
yeah, I put this character that's kind of annoying in my book in like a Danzig t-shirt, and I was like,
Not even Misfits, Danzig.
I mean, I like the Misfits. Yeah, anyway.
I
digress.
I like Misfits, that's what I'm saying.
I know. Yeah, Danzig, yeah.
absolutely.
So I feel like there's this kind of idea that soap operas are a little like campy and like over the top, and like, you know, people get shot and they die and they have random pregnancies, and you know, it's very like heightened emotions, heightened drama. I was curious, so do you feel the need to heighten the drama in any of your comics to make them like more impactful, more punchy? And I would be curious as to your thoughts on how, like, have you thought about the way that you represent queer culture in your comics in relation to like Drama City, basically, and if that's like negative or positive or just realistic, or, you know, and like if that's positive, negative, that sort of thing. Yeah. To any of you, yeah.
Oh, well, I love the high camp aspect of soap operas, and especially, and I just think that's so much fun. I mean, sorry, I have to write everything down because I have a very bad memory. But yeah, my character identifies as a lesbian or like a dyke, but then she dates kind of like in the book, like across the gender spectrum, and I deliberately didn't address that, you know, like I just, because that's kind of how it is, like in my community and in my life, you know, and like the other characters identify how they want to identify. But yeah, I meant to keep it loose and like for maybe somebody who's not familiar with the queer community, like a little confusing. So I think that's kind of fun stuff to play with in queer romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice to like make books for gay people. Be like, you're going to get this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all get this.
We all know someone who has acted exactly like this, who's done these things. Yes, yeah.
Well, and Alison Bechdel did it for us dykes with like the keys, you know, like the carabiner on the...
Oh,
Being like,
that was like an iconic move.
pretty sick.
Signaling move, yeah.
This is actually like part of my status quo, no status quo thing with Young, Dumb, and Queer. It's not evident right now just because I'm technically very early on in the series, but I do have the characters kind of develop their identities and sexualities throughout the series. Again, no status quo. One character might be a lesbian at one point, but maybe at some point they decide, maybe I'm bisexual. And that doesn't stick. And then they go back, or maybe they don't go back. Because I've known so many queer people who, they figure it out, and then they figure it out again like 2 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a friend who like had gone through like several different gender identities despite coming out as trans very young in her life, and then she's gone through so many things. But I think that's very normal for a lot of people because we're still trying to especially like for Young, Dumb, and Queer, these are young people still trying to figure things out, still having new relationships. And I want to see that more represented because I feel like you said, some people might have this weird stigma of like, oh, I thought you were a lesbian, but you're dating men kind of thing. And it's like, that can be a whole mess of things, but I just want to I think there is precedent for, you know, just kind of like complicated kind of characters who just, you know, they're still figuring it out. And it doesn't have to be like strictly one thing, which with a lot of sitcoms is like strictly one thing, unless they make a change, and then that becomes the strictly one thing. They don't really go back to that. It's, you know, it's a constantly developing thing that I really like doing with my own comics.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, and it can be cathartic, like basing your comics on real life, and you draw a character that like did you dirty, like you can make them look real bad. That's fun. You know, it's like, I think that's, or like if somebody has like a certain like marginalized point of view, like you can actually have them speak in your comic and like have the jerks hear them out, you know? So there's a lot of ways you can play with conversations and sort of take control of things that maybe you experienced that were shitty, but then when you're telling the story, you can flip the narrative. Yeah.
For sure.
So, kind of towards the end of my questions, but one of the hallmarks of a soap opera is the big twist. And I know you mentioned subverting your audience expectations before, but how do all of you try to subvert your audience's expectations in your work? Or are you just kind of like, there, that's what I got?
For me, it depends on the comic, you know? Depends on the comic, depends on the story, depends on the length of comic. I don't want to spoil too much about the graphic novel that I'm working on, but I feel like it's going to be the first like major twist like type of work that I've done, you know, which is fun. I'm really excited to write that part because, you know, I think it'll be satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know.
Yeah. Sorry.
What about, I was going to say, what about you guys?
I wanted Checked Out to be like about, I didn't just want it to be about this one character's journey. I think we've seen a lot of that. So I definitely want, so the character in my book is like working on her own book, and it's about this pigeon in World War I, and she's doing all this research. And so the book is also sort of about like the ways that propaganda like seeps into us and we don't even really notice. And so I wanted to make sure that that was in there. And there is a twist in my book around the making of the character's book. So, and I thought that was important because I'm like, I pitched it as a like episodic semi-memoir, and then it turned into this one long narrative, which was sort of hard. And then as such, I was like, okay, I think there should be like a beginning and a middle and end. There should be like a climax around here, you know, like some of the characters, we need to see where they end up. And then, yeah, and then it's nice to drop a bomb like right before the end. That's always fun. Yeah.
I'm out of questions, guys. Yeah. I mean, I just keep thinking about like how I'm curious, like, nope, it's gone. I'm sorry, the thought's gone. I just think, yeah, y'all make really cool comics, and like I think that doing work that's based around like, I don't know, I feel like slice of life is a very like a huge genre, and I think that turning it into something where even just by calling it soap opera is it indicates some sort of like heightened experience that I don't think that I think soap operas can be very straight a lot of the time, and I think it's cool to start incorporating like queer narratives into that sort of drama, because I think that we should be allowed to be full of drama also.
Yeah, and that's how we got the L word. It's like
it goes hand in hand. And the L Word's my favorite soap opera.
See,
Yeah, I know it was, you know, but
it is a soap opera though. It is one of the queer ones. Yeah.
I watched, you know, when you watch it when you're like 13 years old on YouTube, back when you could do that, and it's in like parts. So you're like season 2, episode 1, part 1 of 7, and then you have to track down the other 7 parts. That's how I watched it.
That's dedication.
Not the best way to watch it, I would say.
Yeah.
It's better to just watch it on DVD, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if you have any thoughts about I guess like when you were asked to be on this panel, like were you kind of like, that's, I don't know, if it resonated, I guess, in terms of because I know that you, Katie, you were saying, you were like, hey, this is a great genre for me. This is awesome. Like I could get behind this. I just didn't know if like there was something specific that any of you really were like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I get that. And like it started maybe causing more thoughts to form in your mind in terms of your relation to your work or the way that you make your work or things like that. I don't know. But
yeah. Well, is that a question for me?
I guess any of you, yeah.
Does anyone want to?
I can go first, or you do you want to go?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, I thought like it made kind of a lot of sense because I watch a lot of what I would consider to be soap operas, and I watch TV while I work a lot of the times, and I like to watch like dramas where they're kind of episodical, where you can kind of like not look at the TV because you're drawing, so you can look at your drawing, but then you hear like Archie and Jughead fighting or something, you know?
Like your wives, what's this wives TV show that you keep bringing up?
Okay, well, I just thought since it's a soap opera panel, and me and Katie just watched a soap opera, but then I found out that they didn't finish it.
Sorry.
So, I watched it while I worked. The Hunting Wives, it's really bad. Highly recommend.
Yeah, it is queer though. It is queer. Yeah.
It's yeah. Yes. We'll say yeah. It definitely is. And just got renewed for season 2. Yeah. See?
Got some fans.
There's only one actor who's doing a good job, and I could not look away. And it's the ex-girlfriend.
No.
Yeah. Don't y'all agree if you've seen it? Maybe you don't. But I feel like the pilot of Desperate Housewives is a perfect pilot. Mm-hmm. And like watching stuff like that, I feel that's like writing that I really like, and I think it totally has influenced my work. So that's my answer. What? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I never thought of my comics as queer soap operas until I was put on this panel, and it kind of made me think like, yeah, I guess it applies because it is centered around these characters and their relationships, and the main like conflict is whatever's going on between them. Although I kind of think of it as like, I kind of think of mine as less of like conflict and more just kind of like, when you have friends, things happen. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're fighting all the time, but like, you just how you talk to people, how you grow with them and all that stuff. It's kind of like my main drive with Young, Dumb, and Queer. I would say I'm less inspired by soap operas explicitly and more like sitcoms. Like around the time when I was starting it, I was really into like stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community. And those are shows where I feel like the character relationships are the reason I kept watching, especially for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But like a lot of, and that kind of like character building between all of them, I think is what made me kind of like think like that. I think that's kind of what I want to do. But like particularly with queer people, and like how their queerness has like, how their queerness affects their friendships too. Because it's not always just about who you're dating or who you're hooking up with. It's about like, the people you're around, and like even like your relationship with like, like trans people with cis people, straight people with like queer people. I have a token straight character who like is mostly a joke, but I also like give him a lot of empathy because he's just trying his best, which is really the case with a lot of my straight friends. They're trying their best. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous to write about queer humor and pleasure, and I think we need it because it's what keeps us going against this like unimaginable like giant foot that's always trying to crush us, like not in a hot way. And, and I definitely wanted to make sure that I'm not doing a story where it like ends like with a wedding. It's like you'll watch like some show or some movie and they wrapped everything up, but then they have to drop a wedding in to like secure the heterosexuality at the end so we know that the movie is over, so it's like, I think we should be telling more stories of like, failed heterosexuality, tales of disgruntlement, like that's where I always have liked dwelling. Yeah,
definitely.
Mm-hmm. I know that you said earlier, Caroline, you were saying about how it's nice to make comics that like for yourself, like things you want to see and things like that, and just for like, all of you for making comics for queer communities that you're a part of. And I sometimes think about soap operas in terms of they're almost like you're watching animals at a zoo, like interact with each other, you know what I mean? And like go through these dramas. And I guess, has that thought ever come through your mind in terms of like, it's like, well, because there are all these soap operas now that are coming out, like I keep just calling it the Wives show.
It's the Wives show.
The Wives show. Yeah. And I guess it's like, I don't want to, it's not performative, but it's like something that can be viewed by like people outside of the community and then judged, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think a lot about with my comic in terms of like making bad queer characters where they do mean things.
Thank God.
Yeah. and they just don't get redeemed. They're just bad. Like, and I guess there's this whole idea of like, you got to have like the nice gay characters or else.
Socially acceptable.
Yes, yeah.
Really docile.
So I guess I just didn't know if any of you had thought about that in terms of your comic, or you're just like, nah, I'm making exactly what I want to make, you know?
I definitely thought about it. At one point, I had my character doing something like really nasty that wasn't, and I was like, this is going to turn off a reader. And like, it was based on something true that I had done. And I was like, maybe I'll take that out. You know, because it's just, it's like exactly. Like I didn't want to do like a coming of age story, even though I love coming of age stories as well. But like you're saying, like, yeah, it's great to see like gays being jerks, because like that's how we can be sometimes, you know? Yeah. I mean, yeah, but in terms of the melodrama of soap operas, I think it's actually cathartic to see people freaking out, you know? And I think that's what attracts me to the whole melodrama, and to have people acting bad, because like that's how it is in life. And sometimes, you know, decorum is inappropriate, you know? So,
definitely.
Yeah.
And it is really nice that whenever you see a TV show or a comic or a movie or a book where gay people are acting really poorly, because I feel like so often there's like the pressure to like really present like the best possible light or whatever, and then it's like, thank God Love Lies Bleeding came out and they sucked. Yeah. That movie rocked, you know? The end? You know? Like I just, you know.
Yeah. So I think about this all the time with my own characters, because I think if you read Young, Dumb, and Queer, at least from the beginning to like where it is right now, it does feel very wholesome, but I kind of want to avoid that, because I think my characters are all very messy. Some of them are like less messy than others, but like, for example, Leslie is like my token disaster lesbian character, because literally in the first book, she's literally like screwing her friend's crush behind their back. Like that's already like a pretty like, oh, kind of thing. And like it's very established that, you know, Leslie has done this before. So it's like, is she really a good friend kind of thing? And like I kind of want to challenge my audience with that, because like I think you can really enjoy these characters, but also kind of recognize a lot of them are very, you know, Leslie's a whole disaster. Faith, you'll see come up, has like really bad like competitive edge to her that I think makes her really scary to be around sometimes. Or like Pearl is like an anxious mess who can't do anything, but they're working on it. And I think that's kind of like my whole thing with the characters is like, they're working on it, even despite like all their faults. And it's just something I want to like, I want to find that good balance of like, these are characters you really like and you want to see get better. And also these are humans. God, they're all messy and they're young and they're still struggling. And it's like, it could always escalate too, because like that's kind of my thing too. Because again, Pearl and Leslie are best friends, despite the fact that several things imply that maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah, cool. I mean, so we're hitting the like 15 minutes before mark, and I was told that I should take some questions from the audience if everyone wants any. But I just wanted to say thank you to our wonderful panelists for telling us about their comics and putting themselves into a little soap opera box to talk about them today. But yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for moderating.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Line up behind the mics for questions.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't read your lips because these lights are so loud.
Just line up behind the mic.
Okay, line up behind the mics, everyone. And so I also just want to say we're going to try and keep it the questions shorter so that because we only have about 15 minutes, and I want to make sure that everyone gets to ask. But we'll start on this side.
Sure. First, thank you all for being here and sharing your art. I think one thing that you briefly touched on was the fact that soap opera tends to be kind of long-form media, and a trend that we're seeing in media now is that everything is short. It's a TikTok, it's an Instagram reel, it's a Netflix series with 6 to 8 episodes. And so I'm curious how you all, even if you're not strictly thinking of your work as soap opera, are kind of reacting to the trends in how we produce media and the length of it when you're trying to tell narrative stories.
I think that the shift to complete short form is contributing to the death of media literacy.
Yeah.
And I don't like it at all, though I do love a limited series. And, you know, I'm excited about Big Little Lies Season 3 being in development. But, yeah, I think comics are a great place to do a longer story, and I hope that people. I think people are starting to get a bit fed up with how short things are, you know, and so people are trying to make longer things. When it comes to like TikToks versus like a nice long YouTube video, I guess. What do you guys think?
So I think there is a way to do it well. It's just like, it's very difficult when you're doing it in a very short period. And I think part of what Carolyn's getting at is that when you have it in that short period, you have to make it fast. You have to grip your audience immediately. And I feel like that's easier said than done. And a lot of people are not very good at it, of course. But with my own comics, I have some very short ones. Like the one that's been on display right now is My Ex. That's like a 8-page comic, but I kind of think of it more as like moments rather than like, you know, a full. And you can make those moments into like a compelling, quick story. But I also think like you need to still kind of take your time with it. You need to still really put in the work and just make those very few minutes work, or I guess like few seconds when it comes to like TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a time like we didn't have a computer till I was like 14 or 15. I had like a cell phone maybe like my last year in college. I don't know. I feel kind of like social media has gone through a generation. It's been like about 25 years. And it used to be different, you know, it used to be like a democratic space, or at least a space you could hide out. And like, I remember my parents used to always tell me like, yeah, never share anything personal about yourself online and all of this stuff. I mean, that's really how it was, you know, and it's like, I'm starting to think like we kind of had no defenses because it was so new. And then the way that it has like exponentially like amped itself into my life is really shocking for me too. Because, you know, so I'm hoping that maybe since it's been 25 whatever years of this, maybe there'll be a generation who's like, this isn't that cool, or, you know, something. Like, I do think there are good things happening. Yeah, like I do think there are good things to social media too. I mean, I've met many people and it's been a wonderful way to connect, but yeah, I remember I heard someone giving advice once and it was stop. Think.
That's
you know,
really good advice.
Stop,
Yes.
think. And also sit and read. And like, you know, that's what I'm trying to do, because even I who was like, I don't want an iPhone, and I'm like all over it now. And, you know, and yeah, you look at the way, you know, it's like the revolution will not be televised. I mean, it's definitely like being fed to us in this particular way. So I find that, I think everybody's a little bit in shock. I mean, unless you grew up with it. I don't know. I still think it's a bit overwhelming to see all of these short videos, but it's also like intoxicating, you know? And so in a way you can kind of do that kind of short form stuff in comics because, you know, the panels and the sequencing and the spaces between the panels, like it does sort of mimic that kind of a rhythm, but if you can contain it in a physical, you know, in a physical book, like you are kind of slowing it down in a way, but not disregarding that like this is the world we live in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Inside.
Hi, my question was, because queer art is personal and communicative about who we are and being able to express who we are to people and be like, hey, I'm like you, or I'm different and that's okay. I was wondering, have you ever experienced almost the sort of inverse of that experience, which is you're writing for a character and almost after the fact you realize, oh crap, this person is just like me and I didn't even realize it?
My main character, Pearl, has a lot of stuff that's based on me, or at least how I was when I was still younger, very socially anxious and figuring out my own gender. But I think that I also kind of as I develop each character, I also do see a little bit of myself in kind of all of them. And I think that's unavoidable because I'm the author. So of course all my characters have some sort of part of me in them. But yeah, it's but they also I think even in the ways that they differ, there's still something universal about them that I think really speaks to what I believe as, my identity as a queer person and how I see others around me and how their queerness affects them, their queerness affects me. I think it's the kind of thing where as I create more and more and more, I kind of learn more about my characters, but also myself.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there this saying where people are like, every person you meet is a reflection of you, or something like that? I've heard that before. I think that's so terrifying. I'm like, that's like being, you're trapped in a fun house and you're just at every turn, But yeah, I guess it's I guess there's a little bit of that going on. Like you said, you're the author, so you're either putting yourself in someone else's experience to write the character, or you're doing a lot of research. I mean, in some places it's inappropriate for you to be writing a character that's not like you, So there's an element of responsibility, I think, to balance there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I use myself as a character a lot, very intentionally. So I'm very aware of it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a special treat to be asking people to please don't read this. I found that to be so interesting. There's some of my comics where I'm Mom, and it's so cool that she's interested in my work, but I'm Mom, do not read this. Don't, and so I think that's kind of freeing in a way. It's sort of this one's for us, Yeah.
My mom read my gay pro wrestling comic and was like, oh, Tanya, it's like a romance novel.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. She loved it. Nice. Yeah.
Not to out them, but my parents are in the audience right now. They know exactly what I'm like. Eventually they'll regret it.
That's
Okay,
really sweet.
yeah, thank you. Let's go that side.
Hope you can hear me. I'm a little shorter than the mic. I guess just in general, what your comic style ends up being. I see a lot of graphic novels being sort of more like comic book villain type of sort of stronger lines, and it seems everybody has sort of a distinct style. So I guess just how did you develop the style over time?
Oh, I think style is just the shortcuts you make for yourself in drawing that come up naturally over just drawing a ton for a long time. I think it's based off of your influences, your taste, what you think looks good. But even more than that, I really think it's the shortcuts. I think if you're drawing something over and over and then you make a happy accident where you're oh, I can use 2 less lines to draw a hand now. That's incredible. That'll save me so much time. Then eventually you look down and you're okay, this is all the shortcuts that I figured out for myself. I really that's how I think of style. I don't know.
That is a revelation for me just now, because I was I'm a big Ace Attorney fan, and I love drawing.
Rocks.
Part of the reason I got back into drawing was because I was drawing Ace Attorney fan art.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I will show you.
Please.
Ace Attorney has a Japanese anime style. I don't like drawing anime. It's too, especially Ace Attorney, where their designs are a mess. I love the series, but there's so much detail to them that's so frustrating to get through. That's exactly what I did. As I drew them more, I was I'm just gonna shortcut it this way, and it turns out so much better throughout time. So listen to Carolyn.
It's an endurance test. It's worth it.
Yeah, I agree with the shortcuts thing. I mean, I feel like I developed my style. That's such a good way to put that, because I was just like, this needs to get done, and I'm just doing it like as fast as I can do it, or like, especially if you're doing something short and it's on a deadline. It's like, yeah, I do think clarity and readability should be like at the forefront, just especially because there are so many people who like come to comics and then they're like, I don't know what this is. Like, and I'm always trying to like thwart those people who say they have to work too hard to understand, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, my style is like, I'm really like gestural, I guess, and loose. And like, I use watercolor because I'm impatient and it dries really fast. Like, I don't understand how anyone does like oil painting. Like, it's incredible to think about. But yeah, for me, it was definitely out of necessity. And it was also like it's taking too long to learn how to do this. Like, I just need to do it, so sort of like desperation is a motivator, I would say.
Do you do this? I do this all the time. I've done it for years. I have really, really sweet, patient friends who don't read comics. And they read my comics because I'm like, you don't read comics, you don't make comics. Will you look at this page and tell me if it makes sense to you? Especially if the panel structure is more complicated. And they will say, yeah, this makes sense. Or they'll say, what? I know. Do you read that way? That way? Highly recommend. Just saying.
Yeah, I've gotten in a few fights with some friends like that. Yeah, I'm like, what do you mean? This is completely clear right here. I'm like, look at this. You start on the top left, you go over here like this, and you're going down. Yeah, no, it's better to listen to your friends about that.
That's me with speech bubbles.
Okay. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, my friend is always like, the stick of the speech bubble needs to be pointing at the character's mouth. And it's like, yeah, like every time he'd be like, I can't, who's saying that, who's saying that, who's saying, even if you need to run the like stick all around, like end it at the mouth. Yeah.
I feel like you don't have to do that.
See, this is what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Great. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Let's do the last one.
A lot of soap operas, sitcoms, everything are very bigoted and misogynistic. How do you go about creating a work that's influenced in part of those genres while subverting the history of it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that's something I do think about a lot too, because I mentioned like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community. Both of those have very problematic elements to them, especially Brooklyn Nine-Nine being based on cops. But to me, I kind of think the way I kind of create, especially when I'm inspired by those shows, is like, how can I work around this? Like, for example, if they have a character whose whole joke is that he eats and he's fat, it's like, well, is there a way I can have a large size character who does like eating, but like it's not done but it's never shown in maybe it's a little comedic, but it's not done in a way that's bigoted. Like, my character Tyler is a large character, and there's in my upcoming comic, there's a whole bit where he's only there for like the cheese fries, but like I do it in a way that's like, it's just endearing. It's not meant to be like made fun of. It's not meant to be like the characters are grossed out by it. They're more just kind of befuddled. It's like, these cheese fries are really expensive. I don't get why you're spending all your money on it. It's just supposed to be like fun. And I think like avoiding the idea of just like, that's the joke. Like, the joke is that they're eating is like how I tend to kind of circumvent that kind of stuff. Same with like, the joke is that they're promiscuous, or the joke is that they're religious or something like that. It's like, just go a little, like, make it like part of them in a way that's not meant to be like a flaw in a way.
I did have a thought, because I know I'm not supposed to speak as the moderator, but it makes me think about what I said earlier about like having bad queer characters in a story. And the way that I have thought about it a lot is that I just purposefully choose when I'm making a character who, like, I have a really nasty character in my comic. He's like the wrestling trainer. He's not a nice person, but he does everything he does for a reason. He's not purposefully like a nasty, like internalized homophobia. Like, et cetera, a guy just to be that way. The reason he does that is like, I have his whole backstory like planned. I know why he does these things. He does these things to push the main character's plot forward, and I think that making choices with something specific in mind, as opposed to being like, oh, well, he's just like this buff dude, and he's like really homophobic, but he's gay, so it's like kind of weird. And then like, and just being like, well, that's just who he is. Like, I think that then you can kind of slide into the dangerous territory of like making characters who are behaving poorly for no reason, and then it's bad.
Yeah. To a similar point, my own like straight character, which I like, lovingly made fun of, but like, he is not a character who is like to be laughed at. It's more just kind of like for queer people to see like, yeah, straight people do that, but like in a way that's like, there's no resentment or like, hatred toward him. He's just like, he's like I said, doing his best.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a way. I think there's a lot of attention that should be paid to telling stories about like trauma and difficult things, or like yucky things that like deliberately does not also reinscribe that trauma onto the reader. So I think that's one way that we can subvert these things, is like you recognize that, yeah, there's some like gross like hetero shit going on in this show, and it's like, okay, I'm going to put the same thing in my book, but the way that it's told, it doesn't alienate the person reading it, for instance. Yeah, and it's tricky. It's tricky with jokes. Yeah, like you want to try to pay attention, like who is the butt of this joke, or like, is my self-deprecation actually like looking like super arrogant, that kind of thing. Like, I feel like there needs to be a constant acknowledgement that like you are putting work out for people to consume, and if you're perpetuating like more pain on your reader, like I don't know that that's exactly, or I guess that's one way to get out of some of these yucky storylines, to answer the question. Yeah,
Totally. And I think for me, I try and be really cognizant of tropes and stereotypes, and when you're making work and you're putting work out into the world, it's going to interact with people, and I think it's really important to be thoughtful about it and be down to have an open dialogue.
Yeah, or you don't want to like accidentally give someone the permission to be in on the joke, like if they shouldn't be too. It's something about like, there's something dicey about that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're also out of time. So I just wanted to say thanks again to everyone, and then this was really fun, and thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.